Hey, it's Barry. I want to talk to you about what's going on in the apartment market down here in South Florida. Things just keep going up and up and up and up.
Your source for profit. Hear what you need to know to succeed in today's real estate market.
Hey, it's Barry Cunningham. I am a real estate investor and burgeoning developer here in South Florida. And I've been watching the trends very closely. And there's a lot of stuff that's been happening. As you know, the South Florida market is absolutely on fire. I did a video a couple of days ago about how some of the apartment complexes in the area were selling for in excess of $500,000 per door. I guess the question on everybody's mind is, how long can this continue? Are we going to keep seeing prices up, and up, month after month? Are we going to see stuff just flying out the door as soon as it gets listed or shown to an investor? I don't know, but this article I'm going to go over explains a lot as to what's going on down here in the South Florida market. So let's take a look at it. This piece appeared in the South Florida Business Journal, and it says, despite more construction, South Florida apartment rents will keep rising. No matter what happens, no matter how much new construction, no matter any level of renovations or urban infill, if there's such a thing down here, the rents are going to keep rising. And I think you already know the reason why. Demand. Everybody is moving down here. So I highlighted a few parts of this article I'm going to go over with you pretty quickly. Don't want to waste too much of your time, but some really salient points as to what's driving this market. So let's take a look at this article. First and foremost, the author of this article, Brian Bandel, I believe is his name. From the South Florida Business Journal, used some information from Berkadia, which is a multifamily research and think tank owned by Berkshire Hathaway. Yes, Warren Buffett. I think Warren still owns it, but yeah, Berkadia. So anyway, here's what they had to say about what's going on in the market. And they're saying here, there's a robust pipeline of apartment construction in South Florida. If you've been down to the Miami area, you know for sure that there's cranes everywhere. So there's a ton of stuff being done down in the Miami area and throughout South Florida. Berkadia said that extra inventory will not slow the rise of rents. So what they're telling you, obviously, if rent is a factor of supply and demand, the rise in rents isn't going to stop the construction and in the build out of units down here. Why? Because more and more people want to move here. As you see in this article, it says in the mid-year 2021 report, there were 14,511 newly built apartments available for lease in the Tri-County area, Tri-County being basically Palm Beach, Dade, and Broward County. And another 26,821 units are under construction. So that's 26 and 14, that's 41,000 units are either completed or under construction in the Tri-County area. And it's not enough. Obviously, if demand is high, I'm not telling you anything you should know, the prices are going to go up. So let's continue. Company expects 2021 will be the biggest year for apartment deliveries in South Florida in more than 10 years. And then it says, even with all of that new supply, all of those new units hitting the market, we anticipate rents down here going up at least 6% this year. That's huge. When you think about that, rents are still going up. This isn't an area that's affected too much by the CDC eviction moratorium. Most of the people that are looking at these units, and most of them are pretty much east of I-95, are not part of that crowd that needs help from the CDC eviction moratorium. So these are tenants that have income, that have jobs, that have moved from other areas, that have resources, and we can't keep up with them down here. So if you look in here, it goes further. This is pretty funny. It says the only limitation to how quickly property owners can sign leases at a particular property is how many residents the elevators can handle per day. I used to live in a 40-story condo down on the beach, and yes, sometimes there'd be trucks lined up because only so many people could move in one day because you have to go up and down, up and down, up and down. It's a pain in the butt. Sometimes the trucks have to park in the road. Moving into one of these high rises is an absolute pain, but people from New York, New Jersey, they're used to that, so they understand it. In this environment, landlords are able to keep the rents high. Supply and demand, people, supply and demand. So let's continue. In many cases, multifamily developers can lease apartments at higher rents than they expected when they started the development. So the pro forma that they got the construction loan with, that they began their development with, doesn't really matter now. The rents are higher than they put into their pro forma. Those of you that are doing multifamily and doing apartment buildings and doing ground up construction for multifamily, you understand how important that is to make sure your pro forma hits those numbers. Well, down here in South Florida, by the time they're ready to deliver the units, the rents are much higher. That's absolutely huge. Now let's talk about population growth. It says here the wave of new apartments in South Florida comes despite population growth being relatively lackluster compared to other regions. Now, this kind of surprised me. It surprised me because everything I know and from what I've been seeing is that population growth has actually risen. But they're saying compared to some other areas, it's not as strong here in South Florida. Let's look at that real quick. According to U.S. Census figures as tracked by Inspection Support Network, the South Florida population grew 3.4% from 2015 to 2020. See, that's where I think they break down here. They're going all the way back to 2015. If you look at 2019 to 2021 and what's been going on after the pandemic and during it, those numbers are going to be a little bit more skewed because people are just moving down here, especially with New York doing their craziness and unlock New York City and again going into some sort of pseudo lockdown. That's absolutely insane what's going on up there. And it goes further, and it says, however, the increase of 203,000 to South Florida population over that period still worked out to 40,000 people per year, which is less than the number of units coming to market. So we actually have more people moving here than we have under construction or being delivered. Again, more people moving here, less supply, higher prices. And this is what I was saying just a second ago. South Florida's population growth has picked up since COVID-19 came on the scene. The pandemic started and people from other areas, more expensive states like New York, began moving to Florida. People from more expensive states began moving to Florida. Think about that. People from more expensive states, people with money, people used to paying huge amounts of rent for a studio in New York City are moving to South Florida. That's keeping the prices higher here, but still less than what they're used to paying. And in my estimation, this next factor we're going to talk about, I believe is the most challenging and probably the best part of both single-family housing rentals and apartment rentals here is that we don't have any land. Building more apartments in South Florida to meet demand will be challenging. The region is land constrained, meaning we don't have any. Because of the ocean to the east and Everglades to the west, if you haven't looked at Florida in any sort of geographical map, we got water on this side and we got swamp on the other. And in between, you're lucky if you find any vacant land. And if you find vacant land, it's probably not where most people want to live. Most of the new projects are urban infill redevelopment and what I like to call urban refill, buying old houses, tearing them down, and putting up, pretty much luxury homes. Now, when you do that, obviously the cost increases, which means you're going to charge higher rents. If you're building out to rent or you're building a new apartment complex, chances are you're going to be able to raise your rents a lot higher than the previous property that was there. Now, this is one of the reasons why development is so appealing. It used to be very expensive, but as you can see here, financial institutions are eager, I know U.S. Bank is one of them, eager to deploy capital to support multifamily construction here in South Florida. Most projects can obtain financing for 3% interest or less. Think about that again. Most projects down here, most new construction projects can get financing at 3% or less. And the risk is quite low. Really, think about it. 96.5% occupancy rate. Some places are a lot higher than that. Some are close to 98, 99% occupancy rate. So you're not going to have a lot of vacancies when you put these units up to market. And Berkadia says what I said earlier. This is a CDC eviction moratorium resistant area. It's not really going to affect things. So this makes it overall a good place for people to invest in single-family homes and apartment rentals as well. This is kind of a tongue-in-cheek jab at the eviction moratorium crowd. It says the occupancy rates and rent growth were higher in South Florida's suburban markets than in the urban cores of Miami and Fort Lauderdale. What that's actually saying is that the people who may rely on the CDC eviction moratorium, who cause problems for landlords, aren't going to be the people that this new construction and this new development are catering to. So it makes a much safer loan for the banks or your financiers and a much stronger development project for developers. So that's a little bit more information you have now on what's going on down here in the South Florida market. In any event, I hope you find this video informative. Keep watching. I'm going to keep putting them out. Let's do some business.